Ek ons 'n bietjie oor 'n boeke gesels, so toe kry ek vir ons 'n skrywer Brent Meersman en Living with My Mother's Madness, a Childhood Made Up. Brent, good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely. Where are you sitting, Brent?
Actually, my little writing study. I can't turn it's on the Big Mac, so I can't turn it around for you. But
That's perfect.
Table Mountains up there, just out of the corner of my view. Yeah.
So you see, you are looking at Table Mountain.
Yes, Table Mountains there. Yeah.
Okay, Brent, thank you for the interview. It's great talking to you. Because of jealousy, I'm sitting in Pretoria. No, I'm joking. Brent, let's start with you before we get to the book. You've got such an interesting life. We're going to get into your childhood, but you wrote a lot of books and traveled to more than 84 countries, 87 countries. But just your experience, I want to start off like what we're dealing with today, being all over the world and realizing there's one virus starting with one person, and all of a sudden we're all united. How's your experience with this whole COVID-19?
Well, I mean, obviously, the first experience was the realization that I'd have to cancel all my travel this year.
Sure.
I was on my way to Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and the various stuns. So that didn't look like a good idea. And I think that those days of travel are gone. And I think, there's a logic in it as well with the carbon footprint that we have to be concerned about. So things have definitely moved in a different direction. And in fact, I think one day, when people look at, my gosh, you went to 80-something countries and you traveled all over the world, gee, how immoral of you. It will actually be looked down upon at some point.
Yes.
So that's in the past. I'm terribly pleased that I did do it at the time that I did do it over the last 30 years. But also it is worrying. I mean, there is international cooperation on an unprecedented scale, and it's among those people that are in the sciences and people that are looking out for us and understand how the world works. But we do see still a lot of countries really, looking just after themselves. And there isn't a cooperation there could be more cooperation. And really the only way we're going to deal with COVID-19 and with climate change, and these two things are related, will be greater international structures and international governance. And all those kind of bodies. So the United Nations being reformed, the bodies of the United Nations being much more greatly supported by governments and not held to ransom, as has been the case, and new systems of international governance, and certainly the International Court of Justice and those bodies are crucial. While, I hope that I don't think we're going to solve either this problem or climate change easily if we all just look to ourselves. And then that's on the macrocosmic level. On the microcosmic, well, not a microcosm, but as an example, looking just at South Africa, we're in the same situation. We are a country made up of many different nations in a way, in terms of their social economic wealth and their position. And I think that we have to really look out for our neighbors. And I think we have to make sacrifices and we have to care for people that are not in a condition to look after themselves, or are going to suffer much more greatly than we will. We are the people we who have resources and we who have comfort and are able to self-isolate relatively comfortable, way I am. I probably had the best training for it because my mother was well ahead of the curve. She started social distancing when I was a child. So we would go for weeks. She would not leave the flat, maybe to the post box, maybe to the dirt bins. But it was quite an effort to get her to even leave the building. So she was isolating in the 70s already.
So, and let's get to the book. I just want to say, I think we'll forgive you if you still go to Turkmenistan, because I think only 10,000 people a year visits them. So there's a small footprint, and you can go check out the Eye of the Devil, or what do you call it, the Eye of the Hell, or something. That hole that's burning. Yeah.
Yes, the burnt crater. But
yes.
Yes, But both Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan are also politically hugely unstable right now because of the oil price.
Yes.
And they don't have the resources that Russia has. So they're both going to be politically quite volatile. And who knows what Corona is going to add. But I'm not afraid to go to those kinds of countries.
Yes.
And I've often gone to troubled places because I've always believed in seeing. And you need to see for yourself. So very controversial. I was always against the cultural boycott of South Africa. I thought it needed to be a targeted boycott during apartheid days, case for case. But this blanket boycott, I didn't think was a good idea, personally.
So now let's go from Kazakhstan to Vryburg. You know, your childhood, it was really difficult. And the book's about, I don't want to give away too much because I want people to go to read the book. But schizophrenia and also your dad been drinking. And you wrote a lot of books, but this is a very, very personal book. And I think I read a quarter of the book, but it grabbed me. And it feels you're part of the story. I could see the flat. I could see you. You immediately make pictures of this. Why this book? Why this personal book?
Well, it's a book that I always wanted to write. I always knew it was in me, and it's a story that I very felt I needed to tell, and I think it's a very important story. So I've looked around, and there are actually almost no books. There's virtually nothing I can find, apart from a few broad surveys of the experience of children of parents who have been diagnosed as having symptoms of schizophrenia. And I wanted also, when I was growing up, there was a complete dearth of information. I mean, as a child, really, as early as 13, 14, I was scouring through the adult sections of the public library in Milnerton, trying to find out what is schizophrenia, trying to find out what was going on. And there was almost no information. And it was a taboo subject, and there was a lot of stigma attached to it. Even going to a therapist, a psychotherapist, a psychologist in those days was hugely frowned upon. There must be something terribly wrong with that person. Now we talk all the time about, it's almost mandatory that somebody has to go in for counseling if they've had a traumatic experience. Back then, it was a stigma. So I always wanted to write, and there's quite a few books by people who've suffered from schizophrenia, and who have managed to achieve an insight into their own condition, and then have also been able to articulate that. But there are very few of those as well. But the impact that it has on the family is enormous, and it's lifelong. It's managed at certain times, and it becomes unmanageable at other times. But basically, it's quite a thing for people to live with. And there was no help, and there was very little information. So, and as a child, where you don't quite know what's going on, you're growing up, and your mother is behaving in peculiar ways, or there's very strange things going on in the house that you don't quite understand. You grow up fast. So I was a parent. I was an adult probably from the age of 12. I was probably the parent in the house. And so I wanted to write that book. If a book like this had existed when I was a kid, it would have been something, that would have helped a lot. But I didn't think I was a good enough writer because it is such a complex, such a personal story, and it's so close. And part of becoming a writer is also how you become a human being. It's how you develop as a person. In terms of your own emotional depth, your own understanding of the world. And you've got to reach a certain point of maturity. And I think you have to grow as a human, and that informs your writing. And when I felt, after having written, 7 other books, I felt, okay, I now think I can articulate this experience. I think I can write this story. And then I put it out there, and I got very, very good feedback. And because, of course, it's a memoir, so you always, is this interesting enough for other people? It's always your insecurity. But it does appear that people have responded in a very, actually quite overwhelming response I've received.
Yes.
And so I'm very happy with that. So that's how the book came about.
And I can confirm that because I'm going to finish it today. or start on Friday to finish it with, staying at home. So just a quick question. We've got 30 seconds. You said that memories came back while writing this, and you had like kind of the guts into your 50s. But was there a particular thing that broke you down? That all of a sudden you remember that, and it was just so hard.
The most difficult one, and now, I don't know, in 30 seconds, maybe 30 seconds is good because I haven't ever actually spoken about this before, and it could actually catch me. You write things and you put it on the page, and it's a very intimate relationship. But then when you talk about it, it's something quite different. I think it's when my father tried to commit suicide, and I went to the hospital, and I was waiting for him, and an old man walked past me who I did not recognize until he turned around and he called my name. I think I was 15 at that point, and I had just not recognized him. And I think that was probably one of the most shocking moments in my life, and it's in the book as well.
Sure. Hopefully that's going to motivate people to read this book. Thank you so much, Brent.
Right.
And I'm curious to read all the other books. I mean, you've written books since 2007, and all of the best. And go travel.
I keep saying.
Great stuff. All right. Enjoy Cape Town and the mountain. We hate you. Bye, Brent. Cheers.
Okay.
Ja, jy moet dit lees, regtig baie emosioneel, baie goeie boek. Dit is goed om vir jouself ook 'n bietjie in jou kinderlewe te dink.